So welcome Returnal Behind the Team. Today we'll be talking about Sekigahara again, and we'll be continuing the second part of the sieges of Sekigahara. But today's sieges are sieges of unexpected results. So let's get into it. So the first siege of unexpected results we're going to talk about is the one of Otsu Castle. Otsu Castle is basically a castle in the middle of Lake Biwa, and it's very, very easily defended because naturally you would have to firstly have ships to even siege it properly. The main reason, of course, is because the keep is in the middle of the lake, leading out to two little islands. They have small bridges of their own to the mainland, meaning that if you literally only had a land force, you had to fight all your way through bridges, and that really makes ineffective your numbers. And even if you had ships, try to use the ships to assault the sides of which are surrounded by water, the keep and all, you will have to scale up the walls from your ships, which is pretty precarious. So it's a very hard castle to take. But that, of course, did not stop the Western Army, and of course the Mori decided to take on the task of taking Biwa. Now, again, they did it with 15,000 men, and defending it was Kyogoku Takasugu and his 3,000 men. Now, Kyogoku's defense of Otsu Castle took entire 7 days due to the great geography of the castle and the stalwart defense of the defenders. Now this went on, and on the 6th day, Kyogoku Takasugu decided that he would send out his precious ninja into the enemy camp. And again, like with the honor thing of Japanese warlords and samurai, he did not send this precious resource of ninja out to like kill the enemy leader or anything like that. He sent the ninja out to the Mori camp to steal their banners. And you might think there must be some strategic reason for this and all. Seemingly no, and to the credit of the ninja, they did it. What Kyogoku Takasugu was intending for it though was he literally just hoisted the banners up on the walls as an insult to the enemy. You know, basically saying like, haha, you can't take it, look, I even stole some banners from you. This had a unintended effect, and one could argue that his siege actually would have took a lot longer. The problem was on the 7th day, when the leader was up, he saw Mori banners on the wall. Now, thinking that the other side of the castle was taken by the Mori, he instantly ordered an attack, and the attack was so furious that even by the time they noticed that it was not taken, they had already committed to a full-fledged attack and assaulted very heavily and actually took the castle. So that was really interesting how the unintended effect of this mockery instead actually helped them to take the castle on the 7th day. That being said, although the castle was taken, and through this unintended effect, Kyogoku Takasugu did his job. He held men of the Mori away from Sekigahara. The next one we're going to talk about is of Ueda Castle, and this is one of the most famous sieges of Sekigahara. And this is the one of the defense by Sanada Masayuki. Now, Sanada Masayuki had lived through the Sengoku Jidai, the age of the country at war. He had lived through, Hideyoshi's unification and all. He was an old warlord, and he was known very well as a good leader and general. If you notice, a lot of these sieges we talk about, those hopeless defenses of honor and everything were taking place in the west of Japan. His was in the east. So, help was not very much forthcoming for people like Sanada Masayuki in the east. But when hostilities broke out and everybody had to choose sides, Sanada Masayuki chose with Ishida Mitsunari, and one again through these honor things. The reason given was that Sanada Masayuki and Tokugawa Ieyasu didn't get along due to an ancient slight. Yeah, basically some words were exchanged by them many years ago, and both people just didn't get along. Now his castle of Ueda was on the Nakasendo Road, which is the northern road to the Tokaido, which is the route that Tokugawa Ieyasu gave. Now, if you remember to the episode I talked about the battle plans of Sekigahara, specific orders by Tokugawa to his son Hidetada was that he was to take the 36,000 men of the Tokugawa army, which was actually more than what Tokugawa himself commanded, of 30,000 men. And as he went by, was if he could defeat the enemy or take the castle quickly, do so, but the most important thing was to continue to move very rapidly to meet up with Tokugawa in the west so they could link up to beat Ishida Mitsunari. You know, if anything, at least to mask the castles, meaning that basically you put a force there, make sure the defenders stay in the castle so that the rest of the army could continue forward and supplies could keep getting through. Hidetada, being a very young man, must have saw Ueda Castle with very few defenders, and he, instead of trying to mask it, decided to take the castle, you know, because, well, again, to gain glory and honor. And again, what Hidetada expected to be a fast siege turned out much longer than he expected. And after 4 days, Ueda Castle was still not taken. At this point, Tokugawa Hidetada knew he was in trouble because he was already on the brink of the deadline to meet his father in the west. So, on top of having to rush away, and it was a slight on his honor that he couldn't take the castle, for he had basically dedicated 36,000 men into this siege and could not take it for days. So he left a masking force finally to just keep the defenders in there and move the rest of his army in a almost non-stop push to reach Tokugawa Ieyasu in the west. But the damage had been done. 36,000 men had been held from Sekigahara because of some pointless siege, because, like I said, because Ueda Castle itself, taking of that castle, would not have changed much in the bigger scheme of things. The most important thing was, of course, to reach up to beat Mitsunari as Tokugawa Ieyasu's plan was. The interesting side story to all this was Sanada Masayuki is very much like a Tywin Lannister thing. The most important thing was family and how to move the family name forward, because when hostilities broke out, he actually had sons on both sides of the conflict, one fighting for Ishida Mitsunari, the other for Tokugawa Ieyasu. The one fighting for Tokugawa Ieyasu under the Honda clan, called Nobuyuki, came to him and actually asked him should he turn to Ishida Mitsunari. Sanada Masayuki gave the reason that he was already a vassal of the Honda, therefore he should stay with that allegiance. That being said, I have my skeptical reasons to believe that he also knew that it was a very tenuous thing on which side would win. It would be better if he had sons on both sides so that at least the family, no matter what, the family name will carry on. Again, a very Tywin Lannister thing. You play both sides, and regardless of the result, your family comes out better than before, or at least just as good. And this actually had very positive results, all things considered, for him, considering that he was the guy who held 36,000 men for Sekigahara. When, of course, the battle was over and Tokugawa won, he was actually supposed, of course, to be killed, alright? Now, Nobuyuki stepped in and begged for mercy for his father, and it worked out because he was exiled instead of beheaded. So, you know, exiled, yes, but at least he lived in relative comfort, I'm sure supported by Nobuyuki. And the Sanada clan came out of it at least with a family member in good light to the Tokugawa regime. And of course, like to this day, we are still talking about them in an honorable light, especially with Masayuki's defense of Ueda. So on all this considered, I think his goal was reached. Now, in terms of game mechanics in the game, his siege was so famous and so important to the battle. Like example, Torimoto Tada's defense and all that doesn't really get a specific situation in the game of Sekigahara. Sanada Masayuki's does. He actually gets this, which at Ueda Castle, when you siege it, it actually can take 1 damage, which is a lot considering that when you siege a castle in Sekigahara, the first turn, it literally nothing happens. I mean, you move your troops, and then you just declare siege, and then the troops stay there. And there's only like so little turns in Sekigahara, the board game. And so to have 1 more damage means that you have to put a lot of troops into Ueda Castle. But yet, leaving in that castle open also leads to the situation where the east side of Japan is always a bit... It's not safe to not leave troops in defense if you leave Ueda open, basically. And so, it really represents how much you feel, how important you feel to dedicate troops into Ueda. Because that 1 extra troop, trust me, I played it many times, and you just have to... It's like a quagmire. So that is the Siege of Sekigahara. Next time we'll finally get to the battle itself. So let me know of anything that you know about, and you think about the Sekigahara sieges, the battle itself and such, or anything that you think I missed. Thank you very much. Till next word.